Thank you all for being here. I first want to start by giving you all a hand of applause for really coming and making sure that we relaunch the Mike Fernandez series in full-fledged. We just had a conversation with Rony and some of our amazing students who spoke about AI and how they are using AI in the classroom, how they are using AI to build their own businesses and technologies. And we're excited to hear how Rony has used AI and used technology to build multi-billion-dollar companies right here in South Florida, not in Silicon Valley, but right here in South Florida. Take it away and welcome our speakers.
You have to think about who those leaders are, who have a sense of belonging, purpose, and connection to our community, who are true builders and who are stakeholders in what we are doing. Rony Abovitz is not only a South Florida native, but he is also someone who has built not one, but two unicorn technology companies. Rony today is not only viewed as our region and one of the world-leading technologists who is pushing the envelope in vision learning, artificial intelligence, how to build the company Mako, which is a robotic surgical device, but also into having founded Magic Leap, but it is so much more than that. So it is exciting for us to have this conversation. Without further ado, I am going to pass it to President Pumariega for this exciting hour, Madame President.
Thanks, Saif. AKA Chief Connector. If you need to ever connect with somebody, you call Saif, and Saif is less than 1 degree of separation from how to make that connection. So thank you. What a great afternoon to be here, and to the students that were having the roundtable discussion with you, Rony, was wonderful. What I love most about this conversation is that we talk a lot about everybody coming to South Florida now, recently arriving to South Florida, but you grew up here. And like many of our students, was born and raised here. Tell us about your journey. Not too far away from here, you went to school. Where did you start to really get that mindset of innovation and invention, if you will? And we were talking earlier about the importance of those skills in high school, and especially now, just from digital natives, kindergarten, middle, high school. Talk to us just about you and, being from South Florida.
Yeah, so I grew up a little bit north Hollywood, which is between Miami and Fort Lauderdale, so even more overlooked. Went to public high school, scary public high school. We were a mix of really smart kids and the worst kids in the county in Broward. So it was it was very interesting. If you survived, it was good. I learned a lot of startup skills just surviving high school. Went to school at University of Miami, started my first startup, what became Mako Surgical, in a $300 a month grad school apartment there. Totally broke in student debt, looking for coins in the couches to eat. Basically, I remember at the time, Taco Bell had 19, 29, and 39-cent bean and cheese burritos. So there were some weeks when I was in grad school and working on what became Miko, it's the 19-cent burrito because that's all we could find. I was on scholarship there, but it was still no money to fund a startup. So I had this ridiculous idea of look at the student credit card from Visa. I'm going to use that to fund my startup. Don't do that. I did that. And then, I had an attitude, which we actually had here in Florida in the 60s, which was going to the moon. And I actually met Gene Kranz, we were talking about that before, who was Mission Control. I met some of the folks who were part of Apollo in building Mako and Magic Leap. And most of them were under 30, and they did not know that they couldn't go to the moon. So it was a really weird thing. They were not immunized yet as to what you can't do. So students don't have that thing, that immunity to making things happen. And sometimes when you graduate and you go get a job and people tell you what you can't do, it inoculates you against doing things. So it was kind of cool to be a student, and no one told me I couldn't do anything. So I just had the attitude I could do a crazy tech startup in Miami with no money. And I didn't even know you had to file a corporation until like a year later. I was like, oh, I thought you made business cards. And started to build stuff in the dorm, and like I had a company, and like someone asked me, did you file a corporation? I'm like, what the hell is that? It was like that basic and primitive. But the idea, like first and foremost, like the willingness to take the step out of the Shire, if you're like a Hobbit fan, and not being afraid and not having anyone tell you you can't do, but also in your own head, just not having that thing that says you can't do so. I think that was like super important. And when I was starting Mako here in Miami, the idea that you would do a tech startup in Miami was totally, completely insane. Every investor we talked to, I talked to hundreds, said either no, or the only chance you could be funded is move to Silicon Valley. So I got this stubbornness of like, can I say I was like, F you. Like, I am not going to Silicon Valley. I'm going to build it here. It just made me more determined to build it here. And eventually we scrounged around and found a way to get it going here. And it was like an anomaly. But like that made me more determined because it was like, I don't want to be part of the pack. I don't want to follow your rules. I'm going to do it here.
So I want to stay with that for a second. This is your first investor, so you get all of the no's, and it's so important, right? Because that is resilience and persistence. I love when CEOs always tell me they love to hire our students at Miami Dade College, and I tell them why. And it really comes down to, while they might not be able to communicate it exactly, it's about grit and persistence and resilience, right? And our students have it. They came from somewhere else. They went to public school. I went from Hialeah. I went to Filer Junior High. And if you survived Filer when I went to Filer Junior High, you could survive anything. One of our longtime faculty members, Professor Sussman, was just saying, how do I do what I do? And I was like, girl, it's easy. I went to Filer. You get entrepreneurial skills, you get survival, but who was that first investor? How does that happen? They're telling you no, and you're persistent. You're like, F you, I'm going to do it here. How does it happen?
So there were, the Visa card investment, eating Taco Bell for 19 cents. But then we had my now wife, her parents put a little bit of money, like $5,000. My parents put in $5,000. It was like, now I'm really deep in it. That was barely enough. So the real breakthrough miracle was kind of like, I had divine interventions, which you can't really plan out. But I get a call from MIT. There was a guy named Rodney Brooks who ran the AI lab, and somehow they heard about what we were doing. I'm like, how the heck did you hear? Because he was like one of my heroes, the MIT.
It was all the no's. Somebody that told you no probably.
He hears that there's this weird group in Miami building a really crazy robot thing trying to do surgery. And he just partnered with another guy named Chris Dewey, who also lives in Miami part-time now. And they were creating a fund called Robotic Ventures. And they were going to fund 3 companies, us, Intuitive Surgical, and iRobot, which all worked. And they said, yeah, they wanted to fund. I'm like, I thought it was a joke. And they came down, we had this really grungy garage warehouse, this total disaster looking thing. Nothing like this area. I mean, it was just gross and falling apart, the ceiling's falling. We had this grungy robot thing we had hacked together. It was kind of working. And they gave us our first real investment. It was and the stamp. And I had no idea that was going to happen. We were just doing our thing. It was like being a bar band and you're just playing at Churchill's or whatever. And then someone from Island Records or just shows up. It's like, we're going to sign you. It was we were just in the game, had no idea what was going to happen. And eventually, if you're in the game long enough, you don't quit, and you kind of get out there a little, good things happen. The other thing I believe, which is a little karmic, if you were on a good purpose, is the thing we were building, did the universe want it? It sounds kind of weird, but I had the zen that the thing we were building needed to happen. It was good. And something would open up, and I felt like it was very like Luke in the Star Wars, use the Force. I was not thinking, I was just going to go with the flow, and things would happen, and it really worked out that way. It's very non-academic, but that's truly what happened.
No, but I think it's that sense of purpose and the sense of intuition,
Yes.
right? It's those factors, that intuitive factor that I always say you have to follow. And I think that if you'd look at entrepreneurs that made it and have made it, and those have failed and made it again, it is one of the threads that you'll always see is like, I don't know. I was crazy, and there were 1,000 reasons to quit, and one reason to stay, and I chose the one reason to stay the course. And I always say this, the universe rewards actions and not thoughts.
I totally agree.
You can think about everything until you take action. Then the rewards come in. But what I love about what you just said, because I think in Miami now, not then, all you hear is about Series A, Series B, D, $100 million. You didn't do that.
I didn't even know what any of those things meant.
Right, and I feel like sometimes students come, and if they've got a good idea, they have this pressure that what's your Series A and B? No, it's
what's your purpose?
What's your
purpose? If your purpose is I'm doing something important for the world, you don't need to know any of that. You do that thing and people will find you. Like, write that good song, it's weird, but that's much more important. Don't get caught up in the process of funding. Build your cool thing and it will just sort of attract. Obviously you want to surround, but don't be like, my purpose is getting funded. Then you will not get funded. You will not build something interesting.
Or when their purpose is, my purpose is to sell or to be bought. And you're just like thinking...
That's empty.
That's empty, right? I talk to sometimes entrepreneurs in Miami and I'm like, what's your big goal? What's your big audacious goal? And they're like, oh, to get bought. And I'm thinking, what? Like, no, it is to thrive and do. And so it's so encouraging you to hear that.
Look, there are founders who are into crypto, whatever, and you can just... It's all about just quick money making, but I'm not a believer in that. If you build something that is actually going to change the world and do something better and positive for real and shape things, I think people will get behind you. And the world will open up doors for you that you don't understand because you're on the right path. It's not. There's the dark side path. I'm just giving you the Jedi path, right? Have a different speaker talking about the Sith path, but the Jedi path is get on the right purpose, and focus on it and build that cool thing and surround yourself with other Jedis. And it's amazing. Like, when you clear your mind and you do that, I have always found that to be true. And when you get off it and you go Sith, it's just something else.
Yeah, and I would just say the other thing is ask why. Be curious. Like, why do we do what we do? And is there not a better way to do it? And then get courageous and do it. Because so many times we do accept status quo. It's the way it is, and I don't know, it's not my pay grade or it's not within my control. And I think the reason we launched the Idea Center when we launched it at Miami Dade College around entrepreneurship, it wasn't this notion. We went to MIT for a day, went to Harvard, went to everybody who was running these startup spaces. And it wasn't to do that. It was to have that mindset. Like, if in our vision, it was, could we create the mindset, an entrepreneur mindset in every single student so that they could be the CEO of their lives? And if they were the CEO of their lives and ran their lives with those entrepreneur skills and mindset, then they would contribute to the world. And in that contribution, they would contribute greatly to any startup in Miami or to any business in Miami, and just kind of creating that ecosystem.
Totally true. That's awesome.
That was our vision. Like, people kept saying, why would a community college, you don't do startups, you don't have entrepreneurs, do you do patents? What do you do with your intellectual property? Kind of like, no. We fund MIT, Harvard, and all of that. And I just kept thinking, how short-sighted. If you wanted to create a strong ecosystem, you needed everyone to have that mindset to create the environment. But so I wanted to share that with you.
Love
was
that,
a little bit.
This is the United States. You do not need to go to Harvard to build something. Like, you're supposed to be able to be from anywhere, from any income level, and build that cool thing. It's very democratic what you guys are doing, which I love.
Yeah, yep. Thanks. People ask, why are you Democracy's College? Like, why is that your tagline? What do you save democracy? And no, democracy is hope and opportunity. And the college, and through the power of education, is hope and opportunity. And if you keep that optimism, then you can withstand all the no's.
By the way, that optimism is key. Like, if you want to have that energy, you have to somehow believe, even though there's no reason to believe anymore. Like, the next day, the sun's going to rise and something will happen, and you're going to take that next step. It's like, if you don't have that optimism, it's very tough to be in that startup energy. But I think you have to have that optimism, because every day the earth does turn and every day is new. And if you actually just look at the universe, there's always a new thing happening. You just sort of get in sync with that. But founders have to have that crazy optimism. Like, not that you jump off a building, you're going to fly. No, you're going to splat. It's a different kind of, like, there's like a smart optimism. Not magical thinking, but a very intense, focused optimism.
So you just said magical. So you love being our cartoonist, right? And so certainly inventing and creating. What was the leap that you took around creating Magic Leap and the vision that you saw? So Mako was about, the world needs this, and I am passionate and know that this is needed in the healthcare system and in the ecosystem of that. What did you see in that purpose around Magic Leap?
So my background is mechanical and biomedical engineering. And Mako, we integrated robots, software, AI, implants to do a whole thing. And in that, I just thought a lot about computing, like what computing design was and what it could be. And I was wondering, well, we have a computer in our head that we're not using that much. And I thought it was weird that we made it outward. We put our intelligence into like chips and put it outward. But I thought the next shift would be computing coming back. And I thought, like, our internal computer, which has like 100 trillion neural connections, was so powerful, so untapped, has the world's best display. I remember holding up an iPhone when it came out. I was like, this is a tiny display. This display is great. That sucks. But I like the mobility. How do I shove that in my head, like Matrix style? Because I want the display I have in here is the best display I'm ever going to have in the whole world. Right? Like most, unless you have impairment in sight, but like the visual cortex, which is like 40% of our brain, I thought was such an amazing display. So I had this idea that I called sensory computing. How do we interface with our senses? And that's got to be the future of computing. And I'm like, I'm going to go do that next. I took like 1 hour break after Mako got acquired. I'm like, I'm going to take time off. And then an hour later, I'm like, I'm going to do this sensory computing thing. And then I had a friend who went to Caltech, who also lived in South Florida, and we would meet at a Cambodian restaurant. I had vegetarian pho, and he ate meat, and we would hang, because we thought no one would know what we're talking about there. So we're in this like restaurant, like off hours, spending 8 hours a day jamming on what this could be, with the owners wondering, what are you people talking about? Like a conversation you can never have in the Valley, right? Because everywhere you go, everyone's listening. So it was awesome. It's like for a year, we're just kind of jamming the idea of this thing. And then he goes, you're not going to do it. It's not going to happen. He was kind of a pessimist. And I'm like, no, I'm going to go do this thing. And that was kind of like a real interesting origin of it.
So, I love this. You guys sitting like here in this restaurant. Could you just imagine the owners and the stories they made up of what you guys were talking about, And
they barely spoke English. I was like, what are these two guys doing?
Right. You guys were like a topic of their conversation in their house, like probably for hours upon hours about what are these two guys inventing. Wonder if they ever figured out it was.
I wonder if they bet a lot on Apple stock, Vision Pro coming out, Apple will beat them, who knows?
So, with Magic Leap, and we love to say this center is new, and everything we're doing around artificial intelligence is new. And we were the first with a bachelor's in artificial intelligence and associate in science, college credit certificate. But at another level, I'm like, there's been AI for like a long time. What do you think's changed? What was the tipping point around AI? And what do you think the future is in terms of where AI takes us, not just as a major that today you can come and major in artificial intelligence and go through this degree pathway. But for us, even more importantly, is we want our education majors and our nursing majors and engineers to know that AI is going to shape their workday and is going to really give them a powerful tool to invent and to do things at a much faster pace. And so, what AI were you using at Magic Leap? How are you using it? And what do you think AI will be for the future?
So I'll give you a tiny history. There's a lot of origin points for AI, but one of them I had a really interesting dinner.
I never stick to the questions they give me. They give me these.
So I had a dinner early in Magic Leap with a British guy and a German guy. The German guy's grandfather founded a very famous German company. And in that dinner, I found that his grandfather was one of the scientists on the Enigma machine, which was the machine that encoded the Nazi secret plans, and they would have won the war if not for Alan Turing and what was going on in Beckley Park. And the British guy's grandfather was a scientist who worked at Alan Turing at Beckley Park. And I'm sitting there going, oh, this is really weird. And they were friends. And, I'm building this weird immersive computing with integrated AI and all this stuff. And it's kind of like I had to chill because, like, your grandfather and your grandfather tried to kill each other and kill my whole family. And we're all having dinner at my favorite vegan restaurant in Fort Lauderdale. And we're all friends now. It was like, first of all, that was a very consciousness expanding moment. But because of the Enigma machine, Alan Turing had to create a way to crack it, which many people think that was the modern birth of AI. If you look at Alan's writings, and he was, like, unfortunately harassed by the British government because he was gay and they were terrible to him. But anyway, Alan Turing thought his machines were conscious. They were sentient. He's like one of the first people to really talk about that, which made him even more of an outcast. But go back and look at Turing in World War II, and that is really like modern AI is born there. The Turing machine. And every decade after that, there's been like the 50s, robots and AI and Walt Disney. It's like, okay, not quite. And in the 60s, robots and AI, not quite. In the 70s, it's not quite there. Like you had like Marvin Minsky in the AI lab. It's like, it's happening now. And in the 80s, there was a huge disaster of AI. Like there was all this money and it totally collapsed and it didn't work. And the Rodney Brooks, who ran the AI lab at MIT, he had disastrous companies in the 80s and was like a pariah in the investor world because like it was like, it's going to happen, and it didn't. And there was thinking machines and all stuff. And in the 90s, AI, not quite. And then Google. So Larry, Sergey, and a friend of mine, Scott, created Google. And it's actually an AI company. It's super clever AI. You don't think of it as an AI company, but it is an AI company. Everything in it is AI. Like the guys who created are AI geniuses. And the thing is like a perpetual energy machine that created $1 trillion company. So it's like one of the first modern super successes of AI. So AI is not like ChatGPT. AI is like all the way back to Alan Turing, but Google's like a gigantic modern AI success. Right? And then it's floating around, and I was inspired by what was going on, and we put AI into Mako, a very different kind of AI, like a super specialist surgery AI, which is now in thousands of robots. I encoded the two smartest surgeons in the world in knee surgery into the Mako robot, a guy named Romagnoli from Italy and John Rapisi in Buffalo. And they're immortalized, and they didn't want to be, but it took me a long time to coax them in. So I said, everyone will now have your skills times 20. Everywhere in the world, and it'll be democratic, so it doesn't matter if you're good or bad, that is everywhere. So it's working. We've done 1.5 million cases, thousands of robots, so it's everywhere. So I got to see AI can scale and work in mission critical and not hurt people. Like so far it's been good. And it was like contrasting to the super scale AI of Google and the sort of super focused AI of what we did at Mako. Magically, I'm like, we want to go next level. I want to actually talk to like Blade Runner level AIs. So we had a lot of crazy AI stuff going on in there. So to me, it was just like breathing air. We were going to have machine learning, computer vision, AI research teams. We built our own AI cluster that we called the Black Hole. It was just like not even a question. Like everywhere and everywhere, like sensors, using AI for design, using AI in computer vision, using AI to build applications. I had a really interesting thing in Magic Leap you guys you'll love. I had a 20-person computer science team, all PhDs in computer vision. who had a kind of machine learning they were doing, and I had a radical new machine learning team, which is much more of what's happening today, say, give us 6 months and we'll beat all those guys. And I told the other team, if this team B beats you, you're all out of a job and you better adapt. And team B showed that their new way, just blew the other PhDs away, who, despite being Stanford and blah, blah, blah PhDs, would not adapt. They were know-it-alls, not learn-it-alls. And that new team wiped them all out. Now, that was also frightening, that a small team building new AI wiped out 20 Stanford, Berkeley PhDs. Wow. To the point where it could just outgun them in like whatever they would take 6 months to do, would do like in an hour. Wow. Not like the low-level worker. The 20 PhDs got wiped out, and it clicked in my mind, who's going to be hurt most by AIs? Not the blue-collar worker, the white-collar worker. So what's really interesting about Miami Dade is that the sort of like working class AI tech is the best place to be. The kind of like, I'm at the top, I'm super fancy, blah, blah. Those people are gone. Like, that's where AI is going. They thought it would be like the other part of the market. It's not. And that was a real eye-opener in my mind.
Wow, to me, it's like fascinating, right? And I wonder, in a real practical way, when we think about the students, we have 125,000 students. We invest in people. We actually grow people. We're not in the business of weeding out people. And quite frankly, if you're in the top universities and you're the Ivies, you weed out everybody. You only hedge your bets on someone who could succeed in spite of you, not because of you, right? And they've shown it. We hedge our bets on amazing faculty and a support system every day that believe in our students in ways that they may not just believe in themselves on that day, but they believe. How do you take what you did at Magic Leap and bridge the learning gap that we see today among high school students who may not have the higher order thinking, logical thinking, to be successful in that space? And so the legislature at some level is contemplating a bill that just says, water it down, don't worry, we won't need algebra, or we won't need this. And how can we here at the college, leveraging Magic Leap and AI, say, no, we can get you there. If we're going to give you the learning conditions, we're going to give you the support. You put in the time. We have, between technology and people, the answer to bridge that gap.
Well, first of all, I really like that it's such an inclusive strategy and a belief in human potential, whereas the super Ivies are like, no, only a few get to be here in the upper air echelon, right? I like the embracing of human potential, which is like the opposite of the valley, right? It's like only the best of the best, and you're like, everyone's the best, people have amazing potential. I love that. I think where AI and immersive tech and other tech can help is that everyone learns at a different pace. And if you just don't pick things up fast enough in that classroom in those 40 minutes, it doesn't mean you can't learn. It doesn't mean you don't have an unlock in your brain. Imagine if you took that student and you gave them 5 of the world's best teachers and coaches and all of that, they would flourish. They all need their own ingredients and their own sauce, but there's no money to do that. That's where AI can come in. AI has infinite patience, will have infinite knowledge, and could spend time with you in between what you could do in class. So like a really interesting thing to do is, how do you augment what you're learning where everyone has their own custom AI teacher or suite of teachers, because then that has infinite patience with you, is not judgmental. And we actually experimented on this at Magic Leap. We made a digital human called Micah. And Micah was like you put on the Magic Leap, and Micah would sit there just like I see you, and she was high EQ. And the thing people loved about Micah was she would make eye contact and had infinite patience. So it was very weird. She had like a simple basic AI, but super high EQ. We realized AI needs EQ first and foremost, because people felt like seen by an AI. Like, it's not, she wasn't trying to be smarter than you. She took a few minutes to let you calm down. She'd know your heart rate and look at your pupil dilation. And when you were calm, she would start to interact. And it was like, imagine if every kid had an AI like that felt where they were. Is this the right way to teach you? No one can afford that, but AI is going to be incredibly low cost. So there's some mechanism to utilize AI to actually advance everybody and to give everyone full potential, as if you had the world's best teaching team around you with all the infinite patience and seeing you all the time, which a human teacher just can't do. So I feel like there's an amazing opportunity for AI. And if Miami Dade's like inclusive and everyone's going to make it, I think you have to leverage AI in some way like that. I think that'd be incredible.
Yeah, I've challenged and the provost to smiling because we're going to undertake sessions in the next few weeks, design thinking sessions about how to redesign the way we provide learning support for students, because we have tutoring labs and we have writing centers, and then we partner with Study Edge and NAC and Circle In, and it's all these things, but we're not creating exactly what you're saying, like almost this avatar that is this faculty member 24/7 meeting the student where they are, so then our faculty, when they're in the classroom, are facilitating conversations that bring us back to a world that we can have dialogue. Doesn't mean that we all have to agree exactly, but that we can really have a dialogue, whether it's about history or English or whether it's about algebra. And I think that part of the dialogue that goes away is that there isn't a foundational knowledge base, right? I can have this dialogue just enough to not be dangerous because you're wicked, you were smart, but I can ask some good questions because I have some kind of foundational knowledge on AI and don't think it's spooky kooky. But how many of you kind of think it knows your heartbeat and it looks into your eyes and then settles you in, and then when you're calm, it talks to you in a soft voice and has infinite patience, and it's not a human? Right? Right. So
we built it. I mean,
Yeah,
we tested it. We had that.
Which is awesome,
I
right?
concept card that, so I know it's possible.
Yeah, and so we're having these sessions now at the college to really redesign that and leave out of this way that we think how we have to support students, knowing AI is there and what you all did with
But isn't that
Magic
a
Leap.
flip of AI? Like the West Coast version of AI is, we're going to replace you all. This is saying AI is to make everyone better, which is a totally different use, right? It's flipping AI upside down. The other one is like, you're unnecessary, especially those of you who aren't from MIT. But this is like, no, let's use AI to make us better and make you better in life, which is a totally different purpose of why AI exists. Like, what's it for?
Yeah, their ROI is we're going to save you money because you're not going to need this human capital, and our mindset is we're going to create human capital. We're going to accelerate human talent and capital, which is the one thing that I think everyone needs and every community needs. Where do you think AI jobs go? So what will be that kind of job posting that you think is there now or will be coming, that especially our students and our faculty that are here can think about? Because I think part of this is, especially like middle school, you have these middle school fairs, and who goes there? A doctor, a lawyer, a police officer, a firefighter, a teacher. So those are the things that especially first generation families, and I'll share this quick story with you. Ken Griffin was our commencement speaker last year. And so we are at Marlins Park. It's a full house. We've got graduates there. And there's a moment in our commencement exercises, and no matter how much I had said to Ken who our students were, there's this moment. And we say, if you're the first in your family, you know, after you go graduating cum laude, we, do that one, honors college, great. And then we say, if you're the first in your family graduating, please stand. And there is just an uproar of standing. And then we say, stay standing if you've been working while you've been studying, and stand if you've been working while you've been studying, and then everyone stands. And we go on. If you've served the military, how many of you have been taking care of a child? Please stand, right? And he looks to me, I look to him, he's got goosebumps, and he goes, this is the American dream. I said, this is what community colleges do. This is what Miami Dade is about. And so I share that because how do we then prepare? What are the jobs we have to be thinking and making sure our students are informed and know, especially when they're the first ever in their families to go to college?
I'm going to give a bleak prediction and then an optimistic set of things to do. I talked to Saif about this. The bleak prediction is if your job is data analyst, if your job is to sit at a desk in front of a computer, it seems very unlikely to me that by late 2020s, 2030s, that job exists. Because you are a person in front of a chair typing on a keyboard in front of a screen, and that job is so easily eaten up by AI. So a huge swath of white-collar knowledge work gone. It just is better to say that and not to think, there's a little bit of time in between, and maybe some superstar coders are survived for a while, but every time you're typing in GitHub, it's learning your coding anyway. So all your superstar coding is being fed into the machine, which then you're like, oh, it's better than me now, and like you're gone too. So that's a little scary, but something that people do really well, we have bodies. So I have an idea, I've been talking about it a little bit, the blue-collar tech worker. The blue-collar tech workers, I use my body. I'm an emergency technician. I'm special forces. I'm a medic. I'm in an operating room. I also operate in the physical world. I need EQ. I need to, do physical therapy. I'm a technician in the field. Robots are not catching up that fast. I built robots at Mako. There's no crazy thing happening with motors or batteries or materials right now that makes any sense that our body part is going away. So the idea of you augmented by AI being a very capable blend of blue and white collar is, I think, the future. So if you're here, if I was a student, I would learn AI, I would learn skills, but think about maybe for a few years I have the job behind the desk, bank analyst, whatever, but knowing that's going away, how do I leverage myself to be creative and interacting with the world and people? So your whole self has got to be activated. The desk job in the back room of a bank, the BCG data analyst junior, no. I think those jobs, they're just too easy for AI to eat up. And there's so much money, hundreds of billions of dollars being fed into the machine to eliminate all those jobs. So initially they thought it's the blue collar workers who are getting eaten up, but that's so hard. The weird thing I learned at Mako, it's almost impossible to build a robot janitor, but it was easy to get rid of the orthopedic surgeon. Weird, the AI I needed for an orthopedic surgeon was this big. The AI you need for the person cleaning your hotel room is immensely complicated. So you think about where the money goes. I was able to actually do better than the world's best orthopedic surgeons in 2005, 2006 on $5,000 computers. You still can't do what a person cleaning your hotel room does. One of my friends funded $300 million project near Stanford called Willow Garage to build AIs to fold towels and clean rooms. It was a total disaster. The robots, and it still is one of the hardest problems in the world, with someone who gets paid below minimum wage to pick up your towels, clean the room, do all those things. Super hard problems. You go, wait a minute, that one is using more of a brain than a neurosurgeon. The neurosurgeon has specialty training in a tiny piece of their brain. It sounds weird, but it opened my mind to the money's probably flowing the wrong way. We're not appreciating blue-collar workers right, but the future is blue-collar blending with tech, and white-collar behind a desk probably going to go away, whether it's 28 or 35. I just want to say that to you guys here so you don't oh my God, it wasn't a surprise. And how do you adapt for that change and teach yourself to be always learning and have your body in the world? It sounds kind of weird, but be someone that is not just behind a desk, because I think just behind the desk is a very vulnerable place to be for the next 10, 15 years. I mean, that wasn't what you wanted me to say.
No, it's so good. It's so spot on, because if you think about it, you see it. You see it among, university graduates in finance, right, that are going, and they're going to New York Chicago, and if you ask them what they're doing is they get to work at 6 a.m., they don't leave until midnight, they don't get up from their desk, and they're just looking at spreadsheets. And you have to think to yourself, that is so ripe for automation. Then if you walk around this campus and you see the people making sure that the experience that we're having here is top notch. And that's the human experience. And I think about junior attorneys. You hire junior attorneys, you don't see them. If you have a kid that's an attorney or a friend, their first 4 or 5 years, you don't see them. They're just picking billing hours, which is just doing the same thing.
That's going to be an AI.
And that's going to be AI. So it makes like so much sense. There's always much smarter people than me in the room, so I want to pause and turn it to someone. Maybe we have time like for 1 or 2 questions, but I know I've missed probably amazing question that someone has. So please come up to the mic and ask your question.
Hi, my name is Ana Ruiz. Rony, you and I are connected on LinkedIn, so I'm super happy to finally see you in
Awesome.
person. Gotta
You're
plug
a real
it
person.
in. Awesome. Thank you. So
He's real, you're real. This is great.
Yeah, I have so many questions, but I think the 2 ones that are more critical for me is understanding what kind of basic education you need outside of artificial intelligence to actually make it the best. Because today, I was sitting with my one of my mom's friends, and I told her, hey, you do translations, right? Here's ChatGPT. Now, instead of spending, 5 hours doing a legal translation, you can do it in literally minutes. But using the technology myself, I realized if I write it and then I give it to ChatGPT, for example, to help me edit it, and then I take it back and make it my own, it made a lot more sense than asking it to write it for me. So what kind of basic education do we have to maintain so that the future generations aren't just plugging in instructions and actually making AI even a more powerful tool and perhaps using it to the best of its abilities?
So my take on that is I think everybody needs a really deep grounding in math, physics, arts, literature, philosophy, a high curiosity, reasoning, comic books. Just fill yourself with, you can't be subordinate to an AI. And if you don't study those things, you're just going to be a partially empty brain who's subordinate to a computer. If you feed yourself all the time, you're going to be able to be dominant on the computing and make them do for us what we need as a society. So I feel like none of what we've needed to learn has gone away. In fact, it's more. And more important to have this integrative, multidisciplinary. So not just physics, not just math, but humanities and art. You want your left and right brain switched on because that complexity we have is not yet matched and may never be matched by AI. AI is a different kind of beast, but so take advantage of our uniqueness of our left brain, our right brain, empathy, humanity, the blending of math and physics and art in a way that makes us people. Double down on that. I would not back off at all. I'd go even more.
Okay, just one more question if that's all right. So I am a non-technical person who has a great idea, right? I've been told, well, if you're not the technical person behind it, then how do you believe you can actually pull up a startup and make it happen? Is the introduction now of artificial intelligence, and clearly the way we are right now in the world, is that an opening for non-technical people who have great ideas to actually launch technology startups?
First of all, yes. And second of all, I think what I saw today here, which is super cool, is there's an entire row of your chief technical officer, chief scientist, so I think the idea of collaborating and partnering is key to being a founder. Don't try to do it all by yourself, but if you are good at leadership and you can build a relationship, you could convince an 18-year-old kid from high school who's a great coder to join your team. So I think that's more important than knowing it all, how to build a team, how to collaborate, and there's 120,000 students just here. So I feel like that's important, and then also leverage technology, but I wouldn't do instead of. I think you have to find people who are really good complements And I think building that core team is the most important thing if you want to be successful in anything, but particularly in a startup.
But
so you don't have to know
regardless-
tech, you just have to have the good idea.
But you also need to know how to speak to your technologists, right? So never mind whether or not you're tech savvy or not, you have to know how to speak the language. So even if you don't pass that coding class, at least you know how to talk about it, right?
You can get two people. Like in the tech world, there's let's say the chief technologist and the chief product officer. So the chief product officer is bilingual. They know how to speak to non-tech people and translate it to tech people. So maybe you need two co-founders, but that's actually a role when you think about it. Like the chief product officer is translating human into engineering speak. So but keep thinking about the collaboration and team building. I think that's super fundamental.
Good afternoon. Hello, Mr. Rony. My name is Lewis. I'm a student at Turner Tech. I just want to say, AI is very predominantly used in our era today. It's used everything. It has good sides, but as you said, everything has a Jedi, and I think everything has a Sith. And, a very common thing that's happening is that people believe that AI can be used for good, but there's a lot of danger, and there's a lot of, caution towards AI, because AI could be dangerous. And I just wanted to know your, opinion on the people who say that AI can be very, very dangerous if not used right. And if so, what would you say your precautions would be?
So I think AI has an asymmetry. The number of ways it could go wrong are infinitely larger than the number of ways it can go good, unfortunately. It's like in the Avengers Infinity Wars, there's like two paths, maybe one, where they save the world, and every time Doctor Strange tried to figure out, no, that ended bad, that ended bad, that ended bad. So basically I think there's an asymmetry, which means that as human beings and students, you have to blend ethics and frameworks and push AI. It's going to take enormous energy to actually do good. It's so much easier for things to just go bad. And you see that in social networks. Mistruths fly 20, 30 times faster. MIT did a study. Non-true things just propagate across the internet much more quickly than true things. So AI actually favors harmful things. And it's scary, right? So how do you use a lot of energy to make it do good? Unfortunately, I wish it was evenly split, but it's totally unevenly split, which means you have a higher burden if you're in this field to push it in so many ways to do good. But that's why you want to be a Jedi.
Great question.
Thank you for your time.
Great question. Any guardrails that you think we need to be thinking about putting around AI?
Totally. So in our Mako robot, we all read all kinds of science fiction. We put in Asimov's 3 laws as a starting point. So if you know Asimov's 3 laws, they are fundamental thinking, about not doing harm to human beings and not harming things. And we actually have that in the Mako robot. And when I visited big giant tech companies in the Valley, not to be named, I'm like, do you guys have those in your giant AI thing that I'm walking through right now? It's like, who's Isaac Asimov? I was like, oh my God, where's your big red off button? We don't have one. And I'm like, whoa. So one, a lack of curiosity about, it's going to sound very funny, but science fiction and comic book authors, we had a whole comic book team at Magic Leap, have thought about every way the world can go wrong in comics and science fiction, and it's a lesson to us on that narrow path on what to do right. So I had people who wrote The Watchmen and all kinds of things, DC, Marvel, comics folks, as my guideposts and philosophers on how to do AI right. Because you see the villainry of it is so big and could go so wrong. So I think you have to be very careful and thoughtful. But I think Asimov's 3 laws is a starting point. And then I think just basic human empathy. If you were raised in any kind of half-decent way, you kind of know what's right and wrong. People know what's right and wrong. To pretend we don't know what's right and wrong is nonsense. So just get rid of that nonsense. You kind of have think about your mom. I had a rule at Mako called the mom rule. Your mom's sitting there looking at you and go, what are you doing? You know what I mean? It's really that simple. Your mom or your grandmother's what on earth are you doing? That's wrong. If you have that in your mind, you're just not going to do that thing. And I think in the Valley, I've met people who don't have that part of their brain. But if you have that in your brain, you just know what's right. And you know, taking people's data and selling it to people, I mean, you just know it's wrong. Like, what are you doing? We're making money on it. No, that's wrong. That's not right.
First, thank you for what I would say, sobering perspective on AI and inspirational. And so the question is this. I actually am a neuropsychologist, and one of the things was, how can you talk about AI? And I said, as good as I am, I cannot detect behavioral marker of autonomic nervous system. So my question to you is, and I'm actually thankful to the President Pumariega, I was awarded Presidential Innovation, where I'm putting together an app where we could help with the students actually detect the pupil dilation that no human can, where I could read the EEG pattern at the time they're doing a math quiz.
But I would say attentive EQ could be very helpful in having people, supplemented by AI, become much more powerful and successful.
And also sentiment analysis. If we could do that, that's another one, because a lot of our students come in to the advisement, they don't know what to say, they don't know. Sentiment analysis can extract the data.
I'm going to do that. Ping Saif.
We'll talk.
And then he'll connect. He's Miami's connector in chief.
Okay.
Right. But so here's what so thank you so much. And this is what I would say to any college president and university in the country. When in 2021 I became president here, by the end of that year we had 500 of our faculty go through AI workshops and just learn about it in a non-intimidating way, in a way that we were just incentivizing curiosity. In 2022, we put aside, instead of spending $100,000 and finding software that we could go buy that would detect ChatGPT or anything else, we put $100,000 into our faculty writing grants on how they would use it in the classroom.
That's right. That's very cool.
And so we have a long way to go still. I think we have to figure out how we can assessments when, someone asked me the other day, how would you assess with ChatGPT? They can just put the essay question. I said, well, I would put my essay question on the board, let ChatGPT answer it, and then I would look at them and I would say, I know, right? So when you do this tonight at midnight and turn it in, I know. So can you start from that place and add 10 more references? Couldn't you start from that place and give 5 examples? Because I know. It's here. I just saved it to my computer. Because, you talk about the moral compass. I think we have over-leveraged now all of these things of plagiarism. We're spending millions of dollars in colleges and universities trying to detect what's not original works, and that is not giving our young people and people in our classrooms a moral compass. And if we need anything in this country, is a moral compass.
Totally agree. Could you please run for president?
Hey, Ronnie, how you doing?
Hey.
I just wanted to start first thanking you. It's been a great honor to keep working on your vision and expanding it through Stryker. I'm Gian Lucas, by the way. And my question goes to the innovators.
Awesome. You know the Mako robot.
I personally work directly with the Mako robot, so it's a true challenge.
That's totally awesome.
Totally. The fact that we're helping a lot of people makes it 100 times better, and we are really...
By the way, we did not plant you here. That's awesome.
Yeah, this is not a paid partnership, by the way. But I just felt the commitment to come and thank you for all the work. I think it's a great product, it's a great vision, and we are rapidly evolving. However, that comes with a lot of challenges. And we at my company, we try to encourage innovators to bring ideas and set up a record on what you did in the past. But when it comes to innovating, most of the people come to roadblocks early on in the innovation stage. And what would you tell to early innovators to focus on, especially on rapidly evolving technologies or industries such as healthcare or the technology? What would you tell them to focus on?
The first I would say is the whole Mako robot system, everything was designed and developed by a small team of less than 10 people, severely underpaid or not even getting a salary. So just like, the pain and thing we were in, I think the key thing we had was we removed our mind barriers as to what could not happen. So you have to create a mental space, and that's difficult in a big company, right? I know Kevin Lobo, he's a super great CEO, but for you guys, maybe it's like maybe create a Stryker, Miami-Dade idea space. We can come in and switch off and think freely. Because I know in companies, it's like scheduled, budget, timeline. So the idea of having like an idea lab collab where you can clear your mind or even go, hey, let's take 5 of us and 2 months away from work and jam. Like, I don't know if Stryker will do that. I'm happy to ask Kevin if he would do that. But you need to clear your mind of all the things that say you can't do it. That's the most important thing. Some of the people who made impossible things happen, worked with me, now work at companies and can't figure out why they can't invent anymore, the same people. Because they're not in the environment. They're not in the coral reef. So maybe the way to close is, we had a coral reef at Mako. Coral reefs are very special environments, and it attracts the fish, and the temperature has to be just right. And you change it, and those fish die, or they turn colors and they become something else. So I think that coral reef that allows innovation and mistakes and crazy things to happen is the most important thing for innovation. And it's just the right temperature. It's like having, go swim in the Keys, and I scuba dive, and look at what happened when you change and the reefs are dying. Like, you need that very special environment, and you need people like you who protect it. That's what you need.
Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Rod. Hello, Rodney. Today I would like to ask you a very important question. As a high school student, I aspire to be like a lawyer, an engineer, or some type of doctor or anything like that. With the AI, where does that lead us to be as people that want to do that? Or are the AIs going make us think do we have to possibly do that because they can do our jobs now?
So I would say lawyer, doctor, engineer, there's going to be a version of that you still need to be a human being. Right. For the lawyer, it will be like sitting down with the client who just had a horrible thing happen to them or whatever, and use AI to do a bunch of research, but that human connection is not going to be replaced. For the doctor, being in surgery, working with robots, working with AI, but still being the commander-in-chief of the orchestration of the robots and AIs and software. So you will be an even higher level kind of doctor. You'll be like a commander of a fleet of AI systems, but still be in charge. So you have to learn even more, like leadership and how to partner with non-humans. You'll have a human team, and you'll have R2 and C3PO with you. So I think it's like elevating up. An engineer, think about what you as one engineer can do in the future. You could do what a 1,000-person team needs to do today. So you think about big ideas that are on your own you can't do. With AI, you can do what a whole company can do in the future. That's super exciting.
And I'd like to thank you because of AI, we're able to think bigger. We don't have to limit ourselves to certain things.
That's key. If you think small, AI wipes you out. If you think bigger, are you the guy that's going to solve climate change? Solve cancer? Those are the big problems that AI should be used for. Not take away someone's job. Solve the things we can't solve on our own. That we need AI to terraform Mars, do crazy stuff. You have to think really big, and then AI fills that space that we can't do alone. Right? We're not solving cancer fast enough. We're not solving diseases. We're not solving climate change fast enough. That's why I think that's why AI is here, to help us deal with these existential problems.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Just want to thank you on behalf of all of us for being here with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is great.